Hello, it's Phil Thatch, and Heather and I are here at the Chickamauga Dam. We're standing under a gazebo that's out here because, as you may be able to see in this shot, it is pouring rain. Today is the first day I've had an opportunity to go out and shoot with my new Sony, I almost called it a Canon, my new Sony a6700 and my new 200 to 600 lens, and really excited to get out and shoot with it today, but we're going to have to wait this rain out. We went to another location and it rained us out up there too. The weather app says it's going to stop raining in 20 minutes, but it just keeps getting harder and harder, this rain, so we don't know. One thing for sure, there's lots of osprey flying around out here, like multiple osprey, which is really awesome. Hopefully when the rain stops, it'll get a little bit brighter, because right now we're going to have our shutter speed so ridiculously low we probably won't be able to get a shot. So anyway, hopefully this will pass and we'll get going. One particularly interesting feature of the Sony a6700 is the 120 frames per second 4K video that it can produce. And I decided while I was waiting for the rain to stop to point the camera at this puddle just outside the gazebo and make this 20% speed slow motion clip of the rain. Turned out pretty cool. Well, the rain is slowing down. It's still sprinkling just a little bit, but it is slowing down. While it was raining, a great blue heron came real close to us. Well, I mean 30 feet from us. It climbed up the bank, and Heather and I both got shots of it, but I noticed that I was accidentally shooting in RAW, which is where I would normally want to shoot, but Lightroom does not have RAW support yet, so I switched over to the high efficiency image file, but you won't be seeing any of my pictures of the great blue heron. Here's Heather's photograph of the great blue heron that came up to the top of the hill while we were in the gazebo, and you can see the rain in the photograph. Heather's shooting with the Canon R7 and the RF 100 to 500 lens, and you can always tell her pictures because they have her name in the bottom right of the frame. We've been shooting here in the tailwaters of the dam for just a little while after the rain has stopped, and plenty of subjects, lots of great blue heron, lots of osprey, not a lot of light. Well, here it is. It's the first photograph I've ever shared in a video that I made with my new Sony a6700 and the 200 to 600 f5.6 to 6.3. And here's another one, and it's that same great blue heron. When we first started out after the rain, it was really dark and the birds in flight were really tricky. Here's another one of Heather's photographs while there was not much light, but later there got to be some light. We were just about to give up and leave, and then the sun came out. Not completely, it's still really probably mostly cloudy, partly cloudy at best, but every once in a while we get some nice sun and a fairly decent sun angle on these birds, so we decided to stay. And I was guilty of chimping. I was looking at a shot that I had made of a great blue heron, and I look up the hill. Heather's just up the hill from me over there, and she was working on something, and I looked out and she was getting a osprey with a fish, so I missed that opportunity while I was chimping. Turns out the a6700 can do birds in flight photography. It does it a little bit better when there's more light. You know, it's not a miracle, this a6700 camera with its autofocus system that's supposed to be the greatest thing since sliced bread. It does about the same as the R7, and the R7 does really, really great, but it's known to not be completely perfect. And I would say that most cameras aren't completely perfect. I love the colors in this great blue heron shot here. And look at this great blue heron shot with this huge fish that it captured. And of course, as you know, great blue herons swallow those whole. I love the bokeh in the background of this shot. The 200 to 600 Sony lens really has beautiful bokeh. And now here's some more 120 frames per second slow motion video of an osprey flying over the tailwaters of the Chickamauga Dam. And look at the beautiful turquoise eyes of the double-crested cormorant. And here's another beautiful bokeh shot, the beautiful bokeh-fied background behind this great blue heron. And here's a kind of a long-distance great blue heron shot with the railroad bridge piling in the background. And now we'll look at some more in-flight shots. This is probably my favorite of my shots of the day. This is a juvenile osprey. You can see the orange eyes of a juvenile. And this is that same one, but now it's flying in front of a cloud. The background was better in the previous one. Here's an in-flight great blue heron shot with the a6700 doing a nice job. And look, it's only got 1 foot. It's got a foot missing. Here's some more in-flight video from the a6700.
And now this is a female house sparrow, and she had a mouthful of food to take to her nestlings in a nest box. And both Heather and I made some photographs of her. Here's some more 4K 120 frames per second slow motion video of this soaring osprey as it's checking out the tailwaters of the Chickamauga Dam. And here's a great blue heron blinking. The lictitating membrane, I think is what it's called, as you saw it go over its eye. And now we're on to Heather's shots with the Canon R7. She does a great job with that camera. Here's a great blue heron in flight, and here's an osprey looking down into the water to see if it can find a fish. Now she's captured a double-crested cormorant in flight with the R7 and the 100 to 500 lens. And here is a great blue heron on the rocks that line the tailwaters of the Chickamauga Dam. Here's another osprey flying around and looking down at the water. The next shot is another osprey, and I particularly like the warm tones of the bird in this shot. It looks really beautiful. And she captured yet another osprey in flight, looking down at the water below. Next up, we have a close-up shot of a great blue heron. Just love all the colors of the great blue heron. And here's a slow motion video. Look at this wasp. It lands just for a moment and then flies away off of the beak of the great blue heron. Here's the shots of Heather's that you've been waiting for. It's the osprey coming in to see a fish. And as you can see in this next shot, it sees the fish. I guess it's an injured fish there on the water, and it flies in with its talons out. And in this version, this is the second version of that shot, you can see that there's fishing line. There's a fishing pier out of the frame to the right, and someone has a fishing line going down that way. And Heather presented it to us this way with the fishing line in the shot, and she also used Photoshop to take the fishing line out. And she did a really great job removing the fishing line from the shot. And now here is the great blue heron. I think this is the same one that I made video of with the bee landing on it. And here is the one-footed great blue heron that Heather nicknamed Lieutenant Dan, and she made a nice photograph of it, as well as the female house sparrow with lots of food for its nestlings. We left the dam and we came down here to Volkswagen Wetlands, which is now on the side of a very busy road. It used to be on the side of a closed road. And we got a few pictures, nothing special. I tell you, the insect autofocus in the A6700 works, man. There was a dragonfly, and I flipped it over to insect, and it put the focus point right on its eye. So that was kind of cool. And we saw a frog and a couple other little things. Here's my American bullfrog photograph that I really like to photograph these. I think they have amazing eyes. And here is the dragonfly photograph. This was a pretty good ways past minimum focus distance. I had to crop it a little bit for this presentation. And here is Heather's American bullfrog photograph, and she got really close on this much more beautiful dragonfly that she photographed. And she said that the automatic eye detect worked on this dragonfly. Here's a button bush that has a bee on it and a skipper, and I made 120 frames per second slow motion video of it. And then Heather and I went to a different location just around the corner, and I photographed this butterfly at 200 millimeters when I meant to be using 600 millimeters. And I also made a photograph of this blue grosbeak in the top of a pine tree. And that was our last photograph of the day. It has been a real struggle today. I didn't even document this in the video, but Heather and I actually went someplace before we went to the Chickamauga Dam. We went to a location that's known to be good for birding on Lookout Mountain. It completely rained us out, and then the rain stopped, and then there were no birds. That happened before we went to the dam. Now we've left Volkswagen Wetlands and come to the Summit Knobs Equestrian Trail. Nothing going on here. So my first outing with the A6700 wasn't that great, but that's no fault of the camera. Stay tuned to the channel. There will be lots more Sony a6700 content, and of course, as always, lots of Canon R7 content. Hope you enjoyed the video, even though it was a struggle today. Give me a thumbs up, subscribe, hit the bell. On behalf of Heather, I'm Phil. Thanks for watching. Bye-bye.